Welcome into the Geek Therapy Radio podcast. I am your mental curator, Johnny Hemberger. And I have some bad news and some good news for you in this podcast right here, because I have an announcement to make. Midweek Geek is no longer will you get 2 podcasts per week. So the podcast of the main radio broadcast that airs Saturday nights on KPRC 950 AM. The 4-segment broadcast is a 4-segment podcast. It just basically removes all the audio. The audio quality is a bit better. And it's just the podcast of the broadcast. And basically the broadcast is promotion for the podcast. Additionally, I used to do, up until now, a Midweek Geek podcast that I would release on Tuesdays and or Wednesdays. That was a podcast only. It never made it to the air. It was just an additional supplement of content, basically. So I am just letting you know that the bad news is that there is no more Midweek Geek here on Geek Therapy Radio. The good news is, however, that I will be releasing a podcast 5 days a week now. So there is no more Midweek Geek, but you will be getting a podcast every day, Monday through Friday. Friday's podcast obviously will be the main show, the big, long 39-minute podcast of the broadcast. But Monday through Thursday are individual podcasts. So I can't call them Midweek Geek anymore. It's just called whatever. I might have to come up with a name for it. I'm sure I'll think of something. This is just to let you know right here Monday, as I'm releasing this podcast, to announce no more Midweek Geek, but you are getting 5 podcasts a week of Geek Therapy Radio. That being said, I know that sounds like a lot. Let me just explain the mentality here, because you might be wondering, why are you doing this? It's not just to increase workload, which, does it increase my workload? Yes and no. I have this process down to Henry Ford pumping out Model Ts. This is a production line. I've got the templates in my recording software and my audio software. I can bang these things out. Just boom, boom, boom down the assembly line. So it's not that much more work for me. Plus it allows me to do so much more. I don't just mean so much more content, but in and of itself, but the opportunities therein with releasing more content. And I'll just say right now that I do not expect you to listen to every single thing I put out. If you do, of course I appreciate that. If you listen to any of my content, once a week, if you listen to my content once a month, that's pretty good. And I appreciate any ears that I get and any eyes that I get over on Geek Therapy Radio's YouTube, and any of the followers and likers and subscribers and stuff all over social media. Just Geek Therapy Radio, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, all that good stuff. So I don't expect you to view and consume every single shred of content I put out there. But my mentality is, for one thing, Exhibit A, I'm doing a test here. The numbers that I do put up for Geek Therapy Radio are competitive per show to weekly or to broadcasts that put out a show every single day. So I'm testing the waters to see what my numbers will become if I put out a show every single day, put out a podcast every single day. My theory is that it will quickly become competitive with shows that are on the actual airwaves 5 days a week, who also put out podcasts of their shows. Do I think it's going to overcome those shows just in podcast form? No, but I do think it's going to be competitive. So what I was able to do so far with, at first, Geek Therapy Radio starting out at midnight and now being at 10 p.m., despite being on late at night just once per week on a Saturday night, my podcast numbers are really, really good for that time slot. They're really good. I'm putting up daytime numbers in regards to the podcast, despite being on at a time when almost nobody is listening to the radio. There are still people listening, of course. I know that. But I'm talking and referring to a rush hour drive time, a morning drive or an evening drive, a 5 p.m. show or a 7 a.m. show. It's not those numbers, but it's weekday afternoon or weekend afternoon numbers that are tend to be higher. That's the kind of numbers I'm putting out with a show that's on late at night. So one reason I'm doing this is to see how my numbers compete if I do it 5 days a week. See how much the numbers go up, the listens and clicks and all that. But the biggest reason is, besides the little statistical experiment on my end, being able to do a podcast once a week means more content, means I can hit on trending subjects as they happen and while people are searching for them. So if some breaking news comes out in the tech world, the geek world, or anything I feel like commenting on, I can touch on it while it's hot, while people are looking for content on those subjects. Instead of waiting to do a story that broke on Monday and then releasing it on a Tuesday or a Wednesday. No, I can hit on it, boom, as it's happening. I can get all the exposure while it's going on, while it's happening, and basically be able to better bring you timely content. So you know that if something huge breaks in the geek world, in the tech world, that you know that you can go to Geek Therapy Radio quickly, try to be quicker than even others to get information on that subject. So the only way I'm able to do that is if I can bump up the podcast schedule to 5 days a week. That's just way more ability on my end to bring you current topics as they're hot, as you need to know about them. Because in this industry, it's not necessarily if you're not first, you're last. But if you are first, it's you get out ahead of the pack, and being able to do a show 5 days a week allows me to do that. So kind of back to what I said about I don't expect you, the listener, to listen to every single thing I put out. I'm frankly surprised when some people do listen to every single piece of content I put out, because I very much appreciate that. What putting out 5 different shows a week allows me to do is that, let's say I come out with 2 things a week and you don't care about either of those things. None of those topics, only twice a week, interest you. There are much better odds that if I release something 5 days a week with at least 5 different subjects, or I guess 9 if you consider the 4 segments of Geek Therapy Radio, I can hit on more diverse range of subjects and better be able to hit on something that you are interested in or that other people are interested in. So all in all, it works out great for you, but it also works out great for me. All right, to start wrapping this up, here's some housework. You don't have to do it. I'm just letting you look behind the curtain to see what I'm doing back here behind the scenes. That's what I like to do on the show, because I like you to feel like you are as much a part of the show as I am speaking into this microphone. Their schedule for each podcast, Monday through Thursday at least, because the Friday broadcast podcast takes much more time. It's a lot more time consuming to put together. That's going to have, the interviews with various guests and celebrities when I can get them. But there's a lot more effort that goes into the big 39-minute 4-segment show. So that will typically release on Fridays as usual, or Saturday morning, something like that. But I typically try to have that show out before the actual broadcast. So typically Friday nights is when I release the big show. But Monday through Thursday, definitely, the broadcast release schedule is going to be 4 p.m. on the dot. 4 p.m. And the reason for that is I want you to be able to get in your car on your commute and be able to get my take on the latest news of the day, or just whatever I find fascinating that day, because there's not news that breaks every freaking single day that's worth, discussing, but there are some kind of cool stories that come up that or any little interest in my mind. Doesn't matter what I'm talking about, 4 p.m. every day, so that it's ready to be consumed on your drive home, on your commute, on the bus, whatever you're doing. You know that I will be available starting at 4 p.m. every single day, the Geek Therapy Radio podcast. Also, I'm going to put a very high focus on keeping these under 20 minutes. I think a sweet spot's going to be about 10 minutes, which is what I'm currently, coming up to right now, if you're looking at the little play bar down there. But I'm going to try to keep these podcasts between 10 and 20 minutes. aka the average commute time. It's a very digestible chunk of time for me to get the point across and for you to enjoy consuming it before it starts getting redundant or stale or whatever. So is everything going to be 10 minutes? No, there could be some that are only 5 minutes long. Maybe you don't have much to say on something. Are there going to be some that are up to 20 minutes long? Maybe a couple minutes past 20 minutes. Sure. But I'm going to try to keep them all roughly between 10 and 20 minutes or the average commute. A good chunk of time to say what I need to say, get it out there, get it in your brain for you to mull it over, chew on it, think about it, and then get back to me about it. There's different ways to do that. Just to remind you, geektherapy@iheartmedia.com. That's the email directly. That's me sitting here, and it bings up on my little search bar here. Oh, so-and-so is emailing me about a thing. geektherapy@iheartmedia.com. Also Facebook, Geek Therapy Radio on Facebook. Geek Therapy Radio, Instagram, YouTube, Twitter, all that good stuff. So get at me any sort of way. geektherapyradio.com. There's also a contact page right there that I'll see instantly. But if you need to get in touch with me like right now, it's geektherapy@iheartmedia.com. Good old-fashioned, which sounds weird to say, email. So, to wrap things up, no more Midweek Geek. Instead, you get 5 shows per week of Geek Therapy Radio. I'm excited about it. Are you? Let me know. And until tomorrow, have a good day, everybody. Be good to yourselves and others. And I'll talk to you later.